The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order! The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Jill and J. Schlender presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Schlender.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of the people versus Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, a 2002 action thriller that revolves around two former government agents who become embroiled in a deadly game of cat and mouse, all while unraveling a sinister plot.
Oh, that sounds riveting.
Well, we'll see, won't we? For those of you unfamiliar with this court's proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. You lost my son, you just lost my wife, you think I've lost Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You are here representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
I didn't ask for this. I did not request to prosecute a movie that I was only aware of because of its notoriously idiotic title.
Boom.
And the fact that it's the worst reviewed film in the history of Rotten Tomatoes, with a 0% approval rating across 119 reviews. Not that Rotten Tomatoes ultimately matters.
That's
I did
actually
not
false.
ask to sit down. You can't interrupt my introduction.
I'm so sorry. I'm a
Order,
bastard.
please.
My bad.
Order.
Move to strike my interruption. My bad.
I did not ask to sit down and take notes on a movie that ultimately proved to be a gentleman's two. In fact, I watched all of the movies we're covering on this podcast in the next month and a half over the course of 2 days, and this was the worst. The worst out of a batch that honestly wasn't very good. The best of which being A Gentleman's Five. This film did grievous harm to me. It made me question my will to live. Made me question why I enjoy watching action movies. Made me question why even a production company as disreputable as Franchise Pictures, responsible for the likes of Battlefield Earth, Driven, and 3,000 Miles to Graceland, would spend upwards of $70 million on this cinematic piece of refuse. A singularly useless example of product. It made me question the taste and sanity of my esteemed colleague. Made me question man's role in the cosmos. If something like this could be released by a major studio on more than 2,000 screens nationwide. I am upset. I am rage. I am Ryan Luis Rodriguez, the wanderer in a wasteland of substandard crap. Thank you. Case dismissed.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh, man, I might
Here.
actually dismiss it on that. That was great, and it gives me hope for my future cases. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Cam Sully. Please present your opening statement.
Well, contrary to this fucked up reiteration, this did not get 0%. In fact, numerous sites gave it a passing review, but given
Not
how
Rotten
Rotten
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes... Well, that's the thing. There was even a gal who made an article on how she gave it an A- in MTV News. They didn't count that review, did they? There's a good review on
It's
the back
MTV
of the DVD.
News. Who the hell would cover it?
Order, please. Order, please.
There's a good review on the DVD back cover. That's not up there.
Antonio Banderas.
I was going to say, Antonio Banderas, please see this movie.
Well, he'll be coming here for the rest of the verdict. I got him on the phone. Anyway, so is this a Hong Kong-inspired American movie, much like The Replacement Killers? Yes, it is. Is it an eraser or enemy of the state type conspiracy film? Yes. Does Lucy Liu and Antonio Banderas do their best Manchurian Candidate and Jack Bauer impressions? You betcha. But the main thing here to remember is that I have interviewed this director. He's both angry and proud of this movie because it got taken away from him. So I will make the verdict in that, does this successfully blend Matrix-type electronic music. In fact, it even stole that composer from said movie. And make for a successful Gymkata-style kung fu opus. Oh man, I'm gonna rock hard tonight.
Aye, thank you, Mr. Sully. Mr. Rodriguez, you may present your first exhibit.
Just like how animation is the most underrated medium because every single thing in it has to be considered, every detail intentional from the sketching of a background to the vocal performance of the cast, action is the most underrated cinematic genre. I've never understood why it's so slept on. When people tend to love musicals without reservation, what is an action movie but a musical with glorious violence? Choreography and staging executed at a high level can pierce the veil whether you debut in theaters or on home video. It's hard to do, so when it turns out well, it deserves all the commendation in the world. However, when done improperly, as in the case of Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, I'm never going to get used to saying that title. It's so fucking stupid. And in the case of director Witch Chaos who builds himself improperly as you can't move to strike anything, who builds himself improperly as chaos, action can be insufferable. He has no sense of kinetic energy or narrative propulsion. He doesn't have the juice, no gift for staging. Everything plays too slow a speed. And not because it's in slow motion, it's just sluggish. There's one solid moment in the entire picture. A crane shot of a sniper falling to his death from the roof of a building onto the roof of a car in one take.
Oh.
As someone smarter than me once said, it's an oasis in a desert of awful. It's not at all surprising that Chaos did not make another film for 10 years, because this is the kind of action that is a proper sentence to movie jail. In fact, this is the kind of movie that would be 60% better if it was directed by Mick G instead. A man who understands glitter pulp, someone who has an eye for scope compositions, and an innate sense of pacing. Say what you will about the Charlie's Angels movies, but they succeed in what they set out to be. Ecks vs. Sever does not. Chaos uses steam like Tony Scott uses smoke, and it's a horrendously ugly-looking film set in Vancouver, the least cinematic and yet most photographed North American city because of tax breaks. Throughout the movie, I can't tell if it's supposed to be PG-13 or R, and when I watch action, I like to know definitively. When I don't, it bums me out. And that's ultimately what Ecks vs. Sever is, a bummer, in every conceivable way.
Wow.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez, let's let Cam Sully respond here, especially to the points made to the director and the direction of the film.
Okay, so first off, what the fuck are you smoking here? Yeah, so...
He was eating rotisserie chicken.
Implying Tony Scott is an in-depth filmmaker? No, that doesn't track. Implying that Ryan is smart.
Did not imply anything like the sort, but that's okay.
You said a smoke-turned vision that looks ugly? I'm not sure what
you're
talking
talking about. No, I said a steam-turned vision that looks ugly.
Okay, well, that's called noir, my friend. This is how noir movies look nowadays. So, for a studio that produced blockbuster movies like The Art of War and The Whole Nine Yards and David Mamet films, yeah, sure, those are bad movies. Yeah, I'd like to just reiterate that the second unit direction was by none other than Joel Kramer. That's right, the same second unit director stunt coordinator behind your favorite James Cameron and Michael Mann blockbusters. These action scenes are some of the most critically acclaimed in the entire movie. The issues with it are directed towards the plot, which apparently no one was paying attention to. That being said, yes, that there are to former exhibits, much like Spawn, you can't call it bad if it's badass. However, this is not an unwatchable, incompetent movie like Spawn was. Much like Jason Takes Manhattan, you can't blame the distributor goofing up the movie title. Much like Tusk, this is a movie that went out and did it instead of making shit up like a David Lynch copycat. And much like The Big Sleep, it's convoluted, and it's a noir-based conspiracy, but not everyone can explain, but many people enjoy what's on screen. This is not the worst spy movie of all time. No, sir. That title goes to Ishtar or Hudson Hawk.
Whoa, wait, maybe Hudson Hawk. Okay.
Well, one's guilty, the other isn't.
I made the record show that Cam Sully has listened to the show.
Yes. He might fucking over.
The jury likes that a lot.
Yeah, no, that's pretty sweet. All right, Mr. Rodriguez, if you'd like to move on to your
Yes,
next
I'm glad
exhibit,
we're
please.
bringing up the plot, because Chaos does not know how to direct action, this much is true, but he also doesn't know how to direct movies in general. To be fair, a lot of the film's problems stem from the terrible screenplay, despite the fact that it's essentially one 91-minute incompetent action sequence. The story is fairly simple and fairly stupid. We have Antonio Banderas as Ecks, the retired government agent pulled back to the occupation for one last job. A retiree with a convoluted backstory, incoherently doled out, with a wife that he believes has been murdered, actually being alive alongside their 7-year-old son. As it turns out, the villain staged her death and somehow convinced her to marry him instead, something that does not track no matter how hard I try to analyze it. Figure in the convoluted backstory of Sever, the orphan indoctrinated into Black Ops government assassination, which has been done before, and that's not something I could say about the entire Enterprise. There isn't a single idea, a single moment that you haven't seen before. Not necessarily haven't seen done better, because it's bad no matter who utilizes it. The nano robot that operates in the human circulatory system and can cause heart attacks at will, it's basically the old vintage bomb in the brain MacGuffin. Smuggling the nano robot in the body of the bad guy's adopted son. I can't give you an exact example at the moment because I don't care, but I swear that was in at least 2 episodes of Alias, the bad season. The villain changing his identity to coincide with his backslide into a nefarious endgame, beyond lazy, like a parody of a Jerry Bruckheimer plot twist. The tone is astoundingly somber, completely at odds with the inherent silliness of the quote-unquote story, dampening what could be potentially a solid B movie. Instead, we have a movie that takes periodic breaks from being stupid to be extra stupid. I check the time every 5 minutes, and yes, to be fair, I tend to check the time whenever I'm watching a movie, usually because I want to make sure that I have enough time to watch another movie once it's over, but I never check it that much. God damn it, I hate this fucking movie.
Wow.
Mr. Sully, would you like to respond
Absolutely.
to his critique
You
of the
walked
plot?
right into
Yes.
my death trap. Those are all my exact points. So you're
very
comparing
good.
this to a Bruckheimer blockbuster. I fail to see what mindless Bruckheimer-isms and tropes are on display here. And you compared it to Alias, which is produced by renowned hack J.J. Abrams. Did you really want to compare Chaos to the #1 hack on movies and TV right now? I don't think you want to do that. And
I did.
I don't understand why you would want to do that. You're saying you're bored or looking at your watch regardless. I don't see what that has to do with a movie that goes by at a brisk pace. In fact, I would say that's a compliment, for lack of a better terminology. You compared the villains. The villains are Ray Park. That's right, freaking Darth Maul and Toad from X-Men, as well as Greg Henry from various Brian De Palma movies. So yeah, sorry, that these villains are pretty well stacked.
So far, you've named the actors and not the characters.
Oh, okay, you tell me every other movie that's not a giant franchise where you can name every single character.
I'm just asking her to name 2.
Gant and the Prince of Darkness. Pretty awesome names, right?
No, not really.
Okay.
The second one had a good ring to it.
Lucy Liu gets to play a progressive badass. You mentioned the kid. The kid is, for once, there's an action movie where the kid is not annoying. In fact, we already knew everything in the opening kidnapping. Get the kid back. Perfect. No melodrama, no soap opera shit. And Antonio Banderas, again, he's being a badass with a shotgun, and who's also getting the piss knocked out of him. You can't say that about all his other unstoppable badass hero roles. He's not playing an ethnic role. This is a pretty progressive movie, which I would think you'd really like to cater to. But the effects complement the story. In fact, it moves it along at a Die Hard type pace instead of being like Maximum Overdrive, where it's for the lowest common denominator. How about you mentioned the plot? Dylan will like this. It deals with nanites, and it's a pretty cool cyberpunk plot. And as a MacGuffin, yes, it is only shown when it needs to be shown, as opposed to catering to a Fast and Furious type mindless demographic, or being a Mission Impossible like The Rabbit's Foot, where ultimately it doesn't matter. There are no Pulp Fiction knockoffs of What's in the Briefcase. No, it's a straightforward slam bang thriller.
All right. Ryan, would you like to respond to that or move on to your next point?
Well, since basically I disagree with literally everything you just said, I don't think I want to really get that far into the weeds, but I have one last argument. I want to talk about performances. I love the 3 central leads of this film. I've had a palpable crush on Lucy Liu going as far back as Payback, in which she is unreasonably sexy. She has this magnetism that makes me unable to look at anything or anyone else she shares a screen with, which is admittedly distracting. But she's given nothing to do here. It's a backstory in search of a character, with no character to be found. Her energy can be best described as frustratingly muted. You would think that a movie with a premise this absurd could give her something to sink her teeth into, but no. Antonio Banderas, I have a crush on him too, but he's simply rehashing cliches you've seen in countless other government conspiracy thrillers. The aforementioned retiree pulled back into the world for one last job, but unfortunately, he's practically somnambulistic, rarely raising his voice above a raspy mutter, completely wasting his inherent charisma. And lastly, we have the great Greg Henry, who is expected to be quietly menacing and enigmatic, but instead registers as barely there, seething at the fact that he has to be in this goddamn movie. And on that, I agree. I, too, am seething at the fact that I have to be with this goddamn movie. Thank you. The prosecution rests.
Objection. Where is...
Well, let's pass it over to you officially.
I just
Mr.
want to
Sully,
object.
thanks.
Just to object.
You can right now. It's your turn.
All right. Yeah, so
so I'm struggling to find a movie where there's concerns FBI characters that have to fight their own third-party contractors.
The X-Files?
Yeah, the X-Files, but never to the point where they're all armed militias, and and none of these guys are mutants, last I checked, although that would have made it more awesome. I'm struggling to think of a single movie which portrays an alcoholic FBI agent. In fact, I'd say Banderas is the most realistic portrayal of such a character. And once again...
You know a lot of those people, do you?
Yeah, allegedly. Last I checked, he did his best Jack Bauer or Jason Bourne impression, and none of those guys were alcoholics.
I'm glad you mentioned impression. Not original, but an impression. Please carry on.
I mean, there's this thing called acting. Last I checked, Banderas is not a real-life alcoholic. Unless you would like him to be.
Let's hope not, I guess. I don't know.
I hope he is.
Oh my god. Okay, well, so once again, we're going back to the fucking title. That's the distributor's fault. It has nothing to do. If you took that away, it would just be called Ballistic, which I think is a proper title for the tone of this movie.
Oh, just wait till my closing argument, my friend. Just wait.
If we get there. Okay, so if you can accept all these other over-the-top fun spy movies, I think there's plenty of fish for the same pond. I mean, this is no different than Jim Cotta wanting to have an Olympic gymnast become a spy. Lucy Liu, I would actually say, is the biggest scene stealer. And honestly, when I ask every other person who's seen this movie, they often say it's an underrated spy movie.
That's because you're looking into a mirror, sir. You gotta stop talking to yourself like that.
Well, last I checked, I was not respectively Hispanic, Nigerian, or Swedish.
Well, you got me there, I guess.
All right, Mr. Sully, if you would like to present your next point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going.
Absolutely.
I play this fucking soundtrack every fucking year.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
So, all these guys were featured in numerous video games. Who doesn't love Curb, Crystal Method, and Don Davis? He scored the Matrix trilogy. Are you really going to say he's a slouch? Oh, my God. This serves the movie pretty well compared to so many other films which had their composer taken away. And long story short, there is a director's cut that's in the work. I'm going to keep hounding the director about it. He's presented numerous fun stories. In fact, he described the production.
The Snyder cut.
Well, it won't be 3 hours long like the Snyder Cut, but he also described the production as very fun. You're saying Lucy Liu is very muted. I'm thinking she's still in payback mode. In fact, when she did that famous, dare I say, shootout where she's using the giant machine gun, she made the crew laugh during each take and saying that was cooler than having a giant orgasm. That tells me everyone here is having a lot of fun. No one's slumming it. You're saying the villain here is slumming it. He always plays a villain. He didn't let the maniac laugh.
Those two don't have anything to do with one another, but that's okay. You can keep going.
I mean, they kind of do. Yeah, so I'm just looking for something infamous here. So where is the inconsistent in tone or mood like a Fast and Furious? This movie's pretty consistent all the way.
Comparing it to Fast and Furious, that's not a movie we're actually discussing today. So let's rope everything back in here. So you say that it's a good score because Don Davis scored The Matrix.
Nope.
That's like saying that Jeffrey Dahmer is a good cook because he got right people. Like, it doesn't matter. What he's doing here is not good. And so the crystal method is in this. The same song is used in Blade 2, and actually that's done well. This is just, oh my God, it's terrible. Every single thing that you've brought up is simply comparing it to something else where you're kind of dodging the fact that this movie has really nothing to offer. If actors had a good time making the movie, I don't care. If it doesn't show on the screen, that's ultimately what matters. I don't care if Lucy Liu had a fun time shooting a machine gun and compared it to having an orgasm. If she's not having that orgasm on screen, I don't want to talk about it.
God bless him!
The prosecutor has just compared one of my defenses to a serial killer and glamorized Jeffrey Dahmer. I want that stricken from the record.
I don't think he glamorized it.
So, sounds like a compliment.
We'll let it stand for now. Overruled.
Okay, so yes, this movie is similar to all these other movies. And since those movies are good, I think it's a compliment to compare those to those other fucking awesome movies. And yes, Crystal Method's name of the game is good whenever you use it. It was used in the opening fight scene. Where else are you going to fucking use it?
Blade 2, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes, but so we should use this in a quiet scene where someone's being dramatic or just for no reason at all? Would that be a better use of it? No.
How about not using it at all because it's already been done?
But it's good anytime, anywhere, whether you're working out or whether you're seeing
it's a movie. We're not talking about your workout. Oh my God.
Well, I would work out to this movie.
That's wonderful. Awesome. That's fantastic. It has nothing to do with the merit of the
It has everything to do with entertainment, which you seem to
All right, let's try to dial back into another
back
point
into
here.
this.
All right, so like you had mentioned that it was very consistent in tone. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I know from the day one that the minute the protagonist Ecks is blackmailed into finding his wife previously thought dead, and then just goes into a maze of just conspiracies, I know instantly that this movie is not a one-trick pony. I know it's going to be a giant maze, and much like all these other awesome blockbusters I mentioned, it knows what it is. It knows how to have the action move the story forward, and it's very creative with the numerous stunts. As Ryan previously praised, the falling to the death sequence, which was praised by every critic who even hated it. Yes, that is an eye-catching moment and very creative. This movie has also been compared to Equilibrium, another movie that didn't do so hot, but is also a cult hit from this same year. Again, it knows that its material like this has been done before, but it's still being creative with its material at various times. Now, yes, I keep comparing it to all these other infamous Fast and Furious blockbusters because those movies will change tone within 5 seconds of a scene. This has no such crime against movie.
Dumb.
Law?
Movie dumb.
Movie dumb.
So when you say other cult hits, since when was Ecks vs. Sever a cult hit?
By everyone from martial arts fans to Banderas fans to
Such
people who like
as, can
spy
we
films.
name somebody that we would have heard of? I'd like to hear it.
Oh well,
Cam Sully.
you're gonna degrade them anyway and destroy their characters. So
Well, if you don't want to mention it, that's okay. If you don't want to play on that level, that's fine.
you said earlier Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter, and yet you're going back and forth acting like this is the worst movie of all time. 0% indicates an unwatchable movie. You made it to the end, so it's clearly not unwatchable. So
your math is really off there, but that's okay. I'm going to let you keep.
No,
He was appointed by a lot of watches.
What part of Ishtar or Spawn level makes me go, this is unwatchable? This has no bad CGI. This Ishtar is, again, a movie confused in tone. Is it a spy comedy or is it just a bad comedy? No, it's there's nothing unintentionally funny about this movie.
That makes no sense, but okay.
Well, what does it make sense about?
Is it a bad comedy or a spy comedy? You're confusing genre with quality.
Well, there's no genre or quality inherent in Ishtar. That's my point. Anyway.
A movie that was, I believe, found innocent, but that's okay. You can keep going this line of questioning.
Well, and that was one of the other crimes against humanity on that case. But
Humanity!
Not the first one that we've made in this court.
in the second part of this movie, this becomes an amazing buddy movie. So, saddle yourselves up, guys. This would make a proper TBS-type movie double feature with the likes of 48 Hours and Tango and Cash. And most people who hate this movie haven't actually seen it. Everyone I know goes off on the snobbiness of Rotten Tomatoes, but they haven't actually seen it. And it's like, you have to actually see the movie if you want a bone in this fight.
You want a dog in the fight. The dogs are fighting for the bone.
I really don't want to be here, but I'm here. I saw the movie. I fucking hate it.
All right, Mr. Sully, are there any final points you'd like to bring up in defense
This is
of the
the
film?
best fucking action movie of 2002.
Oh boy.
Well, let's look at all the other clunkers from that day. We had some weaker Godzilla movies, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Star Trek Nemesis, Cowboy Bebop movie, Men in Black 2, Triple X. Yeah, no, it's no contest. This is an equilibrium fucking rule. Name me something better. Lord of the Rings, well, yeah, sure, that's cool, but that's more fantasy sci-fi. So tell me a fucking better action movie for 2002. I'll wait.
think you just
I
named
don't
a bunch.
really think
Mr.
a lot
Rodriguez,
about
can you
2002
tell-
action movies, to be frank.
No,
I have a lot of
that's
other
not
things to
question. Name
do
me
with my
better-
time, like knitting, crocheting.
Oh, you
These are
poor
much
man.
more valuable things to do than Wonder, which was the greatest action film of 2002.
Well, that's not the question. Name me a better
Spider-Man
action
2.
movie of
Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man. The
Okay,
first
cool.
Spider-Man.
Minority Report. Minority
Minority
Report.
Report is
Resident
better,
Evil.
too.
Those are
Thank you, Ben.
movies,
All right, order, please.
not necessarily action-centric. There's action in them.
Yeah,
But
they're,
I'm talking
they're
about
definitely action movies. Spider-Man
Yes.
is an action movie.
It's an action sci-fi fantasy movie. So I'm
What
talking
does
about
fantasy
That is
sci-fi have to
specific.
do with it? It's
this
action.
isn't a sci-fi fantasy.
So is Ballistic.
movie. I'm talking
Ballistic
about
is sci-fi.
This is
action
sci-fi.
movie.
It has a nanobot that can cause heart attacks. You're going to tell me that's not sci-fi?
it's minor sci-fi, but it's not
Oh
sci-fi
my
fantasy.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous. What are we doing here, gentlemen?
All right.
What are we doing
Order
here?
the court.
Ultimately, Blade
Hero.
2 is secretly the best action movie, but this would be number 2 or
I
3.
thought you just said that this was the best action movie of 2002. You're not even consistent to
And then
your own points.
All right. Hey, order the court, please. All right. I think, Mr. Sully, are you capable of resting on that? Willing to
No, I'm
rest
not
on
gonna
that?
rest on that, but you can go ahead.
No, if you've got another point, you can
No,
present it.
tell
but-
me a straight up only action movie of this year where it is stunt.
The Bourne
based.
Identity. Bourne
Okay,
Identity.
perfect. Okay,
Jesus, Ben. Thank
so
you. Okay.
this would still be
All
number
right.
2, and not in a stinky way.
I thought you just said it was the best.
It was one of the best.
All right.
No. You said the best action
All right.
movie of 2002. And now you're back.
All right. Order. Ryan,
Then.
Cam,
Okay,
thank you.
Perfect.
All right. We're gonna
You guys-
let's. Why don't we go ahead and rest on that?
Go.
Yes, that's very, very good point. We'll definitely think about it in the jury room.
Oh, yeah.
I am
Which I think
sure.
the prosecutor is a
Both
part of.
sides.
So this is already a bias.
No,
No.
if it was, you would lose.
All sides have rested their cases, allegedly.
Allegedly.
The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Rodriguez, you may begin.
What about this movie is ballistic exactly? It's sluggish and never dynamic. Merriam-Webster defines the word as extremely and usually suddenly excited, upset, or angry, which I guess makes sense because I was frequently upset and angry while watching it. Never excited though, fuck that noise. Why is it called Ecks versus Sever? As you know about me, I love honesty in my titles. But Ecks and Sever are only at odds for the first 25 minutes, at which point they unite against a common foe and remain on the same page for the rest of the picture. It's like having a movie like Batman v Superman, already a risible piece of cinematic poo-poo, and having the titular battle and subsequent dawn of justice in Act 1. Actually, maybe that would be better because that movie would be over more quickly. I don't like prosecuting movies, in case you couldn't tell. I don't enjoy talking shit, which is weird considering that I literally made a 100-episode podcast dunking on the worst movies ever made and the puppets who talk over them, but it's easy to write. Hate springs more easily than love, although the results can be dispiriting. Admit it to yourself. You didn't enjoy watching Ecks vs. Sever, even as a guilty pleasure. And if you did enjoy it as a guilty pleasure, let me remind you that Rob demanded that I give The Room a guilty verdict, despite the fact that I genuinely enjoyed it. It's guilty. No question about that.
Whoa.
Thank you. Case dismissed.
It's really not letting go of that Room thing.
Okay, well, so lots of contrary stuff. Once again, the distributor added the versus title. Has nothing to do with the filmmaker's intent. And I noticed a lot of snobs don't like action movies like this. They like depressing garbage like Midsommar, or better yet, The Room. Or he mentioned a good one, Batman vs. Superman, which, last I checked, was hated because of its confusing plot and endless excuses to talk politics in an otherwise already lackluster movie. Guilty pleasure? Nope, no such thing. Nothing guilty about this other than that it's ballistic. And once again, Static. You keep saying Static. I guess you don't like this filmmaker's work on blockbusters like Terminator 2 and Collateral, because it's the same kind of energy, same kind of shots, same kind of badass.
You're digging your own grave here, but keep going, buddy.
Oh, well, what grave? There is no grave other than the movie critics who can't enjoy a good time and want to ridicule inconsistent blockbuster movies.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Members of the jury, Mr. Maynard Bangs, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, you have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way. Just feel free to clear off all those Lucy Liu DVDs I had to watch for research.
Now, I'll be taking these.
All right. Well, I did not go into this movie wanting to hate it. I really tried to go in with a fair mindset, and I'm trying to evaluate the arguments fairly.
You've never seen it before,
this movie.
right?
I had not seen it before. Yeah,
Schlender?
so I don't have any nostalgia going into it, like someone else might, who sort of conceives it as maybe a guilty pleasure or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was only familiar with the title because
it's stupid.
Well, I think it's a catchy title, but I assumed it was their agent code names. I didn't assume the guy's last name was actually Ecks, E-C-K-S.
So did I.
That's fucking stupid. But if he gets to pick a cool sounding code name and he goes Ecks and she goes Sever, that I get. Like usernames, like it's a hacker. Like Neo and Trinity.
Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows.
No, we're like Neo and Trinity and shit, right? It's not their real names. And so that's what I assumed.
I do sort of feel for like the argument on the defense, because he is like listing like pieces that should, like if you just like hear the words, like it should make sense. Like, yeah, that guy was good doing this, and that song was okay. This and action is cool, but like when you put it together, it's just sort of an example of how it doesn't always it's not always cohesive in the way that a film should be. Sometimes it gets stuck in editing. Sometimes there's too many cooks, and then just weird things start to happen. And I kind of feel like that might be what happened to this film. What did you
Sometimes
think,
great art is a collaboration. And while these people might have worked on a really great project and done great work in another project, they couldn't come here necessarily together.
It's maybe like trying to recapture lightning in a bottle or something.
I'll tell you, I didn't find this movie as painful as Ryan or probably you. I just thought it was really mediocre. I mean, it didn't really seem like it went for much, but casting excellent. I mean, Lucy Liu and they look great. And
it should be great, just based on all the pieces.
Great. And so I want to root for it. Maybe it'd make a cool video game.
And I agree that crane shot was awesome. I mean, that was like the one time I was like, hey, that's really
no, some
good.
of the action sequences, I do think they were there. And they're
No, I mean, all the action sequences were just like slow-mo and explosions and shotguns. Like, and it's not edited together in a cohesive fashion where it's telling a story. It's just like explosions are cool, slow motion as he walks away, that sort of trope.
Yeah, Ryan was absolutely right. There was really nothing ballistic about it. I mean, the choreography was so bad in some of those hand-to-hand fights. You have to wonder, like, why they even used the footage. I mean, like, Ryan he ripped this director apart, and he was just absolutely right. The whole time I'm watching, I was thinking, this has to be the guy's first movie, and he's directed like 3 bad music videos before this. It's the only,
he's a Thai director, and I guess he had done something before this. So I wouldn't mind seeing some of his other stuff. I mean, maybe
I wouldn't mind seeing the director's cut, because sometimes I think too many cooks can happen.
Yeah, and that's fair though. If the producers took his baby and butchered it, I mean, we're looking at a butchered baby. It's still bad, unfortunately. That said, I want to say what I liked about the defense. I thought he did have passion. I thought he was able to bring in some perspective on how this movie could be enjoyable. But ultimately, I just didn't find it to be very convincing. Whereas everything Ryan was saying, it really resonated with me, and I really agreed with. It's just like, these are great actors who are having a terrible time. Like, I'm thrilled that Lucy Liu had fun shooting the giant machine gun. Ryan's right. You don't get any sense of that on the screen.
I didn't get to shoot a machine gun.
Yeah. You just get no sense of that. And Greg Henry is usually so good. He's usually so menacing. He can actually bring a level of complexity to his roles. But in this one, he was just so flat. So,
well, I thought in the case, I think most of the performances are okay, but there's no script to perform, right? Like,
yeah,
like
I was going to ask
what is Greg Henry supposed to do with this guy who faked killing this guy and remarried the wife? Like, it doesn't,
And how did he get her to agree to it?
She showed herself to be more actively captive, where, like, she feels she needs to be kept safe. I don't think she was a very experienced actor. Anyhow, but cheekbones that could cut glass, baby. Wow.
Oh, jeez.
So that's the thing, I guess.
I wanted to say something nice about it, Ben. She has great cheekbones.
That's why you like Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Any other points, or are people ready to lock in?
I think it ended up being a pretty fun case, and I do think this is probably a movie that people should see to make up their own mind. Like, does it deserve to be labeled the worst movie on Rotten Tomatoes? And I would say no. It's probably not even the worst movie we've done on this show for sure. But
it's close. It's in the bottom 10.
It's bad though. It's unmistakably bad. This is like if someone asked me, like, what does a bad action movie look like? This is what I would show them, and they would say, explain it. I'd say I could never explain it as eloquently as Ryan Luis Rodriguez did on our show. So please listen to that episode. So I'm locking in guilty today.
Sorry, Mr. Sully. Mr. Maynard.
I think part of me was ready to walk in here and give a not guilty, simply because this movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But listening to not only Ryan's case, where I don't know why Ryan doesn't like to prosecute, because he's very good at it.
He's so good at it.
And as somebody who is frequently the target of Ryan's meanness, he's very good at it. And I don't believe him when he says he doesn't enjoy it, because he does.
Anything else you want to get off your chest, Maynard?
Maybe. But also I thought the defense brought up points against it more, because so many things were comparisons to other films, and what you see there is, even if you take things that work in other films, when you slam them all together, they don't necessarily coalesce. So I didn't hear what I wanted to hear in the defense about the plot or about the characters, and so by the case, I'm also going to go guilty.
It all comes down to you, Big Ben.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, as Ryan says, it doesn't matter what I think. Yeah, he was trying to use the transitive property a lot, which I get when you're sort of stuck with this sort of case. But yeah, I mean, the pieces are there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the pieces from those other great movies like The Matrix or whatever transmute into this film. He kind of mentioned a director's cut. We've kind of discussed that with Dune, where it's like, no, it's the theatrical version. That's what's on trial here. We can't go for what they were trying to do, what might have been butchered, or what might have been left on the cutting room floor. It is the film that was released that is on trial here. And I had a hard time watching it. I with all apologies to the defender, yeah, I have to go guilty. So let's go tell that very handsome judge.
Oh, okay. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor, and you're very handsome, by the way, if no one's told you.
Oh, thank you.
In the case of the People versus Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, stupid name, by the way, we find the defendant guilty.
Boo, I still like that. Ryan, you won.
All right.
Oh, that's right. Yay!
The verdict is so rendered. Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever will continue to languish at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes, and when Reels of Justice reaches 200 Apple Podcast reviews and becomes a certified critic, we will join the pile-on. Court is adjourned.
I'm writing a positive review. Just get it up. This is Sleeper Agent Rob. Up until recently, I wasn't ready to kill, but, I'm in the mood. Robert Luis Rodriguez, why don't you get on here? How you feeling? You did great in there.
Oh, well, thank you, Rob. You're still Rob,
Sleeper
right?
Agent Rob.
Sleeper Agent Rob, sorry.
I'm
Yes,
one of the ones that
Sleeper
came through
Agent
that
Rob.
time vortex. Remember that time vortex thing? We sort of
Oh my
let the
god,
thread.
wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that crazy?
But not everyone went back,
It was Cowboy Rob, not Sleeper Agent Rob.
Yes, but there's several others.
It's a continuum of Robs. That's
Right.
what you must know. I mean, they're all there. They're all occupying the same space at the same time. Thank you, Special Agent Rob.
No.
I forgot already what your nickname was.
Agent
Rob. I think justice was done here today. I just wish I could go back in time myself and stop myself from actually agreeing to be part of this case, because I fucking hate this movie. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cam Sully, get in here. If you want, a couple of bucks can make that guy go away pretty fast. But what'd you think of the jury, huh?
Yes, hello. This is Antonio Banderas.
I wouldn't do the accent.
Yeah,
I would just be regular Antonio Banderas.
That's how I speak. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, yes, so my lawyer, Sully, he put up a good fight, but he has hung himself in disgrace, and so I'm speaking on his behalf. This is a movie I don't get much fan mail about, but it was very fun to make, much like when I was on the set of Original Sin and I sucked on Angelina Jolie's tits. But yes, this is a fun movie that I had making. Obviously, it's not an Oscar contender like my work with Pedro Almodovar, but you can't all be winners.
Well, thank you, Mr. Banderas, for making sure that we never get to work with the real Antonio Banderas, or probably a large portion of a lot of people. From now on, let's get out of here and go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
Why don't you bring Original Sin in? I want to see that movie.
Yeah, no, we might all watch that movie now. But I mean, I probably would have watched an Antonio Banderas movie anyhow. Do you actually like this movie, Cam, or are you just buddies with the director?
Both, as a matter of fact.
Good. Well, okay. It wasn't as bad as I would have thought. But like, there is to me there was nothing original. But it's kind of
it doesn't
it's
have
kind
to
of like
be
when you go to see
original.
a cover band. You're like, this is not as good, but I'm drunk, and
It doesn't have to be original.
It certainly does not live down to the expectations that the internet
0%.
puts for it.
That's you ball territory.
It's too low. It's not a 0. I I'd put it in
there were some positive reviews.
I'd put it in the 20s or 30s, maybe. They do look good. The casting is good, and so are the costumes and stuff. So what have you been up to lately? What's been keeping you busy?
I've been guest starring on numerous other podcasts and just been having fun, just dissecting just other forgotten cult media, as well as summing up recent TV shows. We're going to drop a few other brief mini-sodes here. We did a 2-part for Bill Lawrence's shows, Ted Lasso and Shrinking recently.
Introduce your show, though. Let people know.
Tell people the name of it.
Sorry. Not the
If it hasn't been canceled for that Antonio Banderas impression.
It was.
I mean, if you're gonna say it, you gotta sing the song for it.
Oh, there's a song for it.
Yeah, your theme song.
Okay, you said you were talking about Banderas, and you're going back to me. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, not Antonio Banderas' theme song.
Comedy, not whitewashing. Case dismissed. But Jacked Up review show has been around for a while, and we've been just doing just that, jacking shit up, just figuring out what makes it tick, what's its place in pop culture. How would you?
What does jacking things up mean to you? What does it mean to jack something up in your soul?
Like, just fuck it up, beat it up.
Okay.
Just like what Ryan did.
Sledgehammer. Anyway, yes.
Well, I mean, sometimes you jack a car up in order to fix it.
Exactly. Much like that one Anchorman tone. It's provocative, but no one knows what it means.
And there's that one electronic song, "Jack My Bitch Up."
Oh, well. Hopefully we don't have.
All right, now sing that lyrics in your Antonio Banderas voice, and then we can all go home.
Just everyone with ears. We apologize to everyone. What are kind of some of the upcoming episodes we can see on the Jacked Up?
You can see a Schwarzenegger themed week. You can see all kinds of other just tributes. We've been interviewing local radio stations and reporters around the world, as well as health gurus. We're a variety show, so we just love to just give everyone a moment in the sun and have some food for thought, like this movie provided.
Yes,
fantastic
good job, movie.
I knew I was going to lose. I'll just say that. I knew it was rigged, and no one liked
it. Was
fun spy movies.
I think I could have been swayed, but it was a tough. It would have been, would have had to needle into the right things for me. But
is there an episode of Jacked Up that you would recommend someone to jump in on? Like what, given that you've had so many, where would you put a new person at?
I would recommend just some of our filmmaker focuses, like Paul Verhoeven, who you guys have rightly prosecuted in the past, and
and then wrongly let go.
Well, that was a funnier one because I was just trying to figure out where Dylan was going with his disclaimer. I'm like, I'm pretty sure, much like Ryan, I saw it on VH1, so I knew it was a satire. It just was heavy-handed, so I was like, I'm not understanding what's not making sense.
So you saw the one with the CGI or the rotoscoped underwear on everyone?
I want that one. Where is it?
I really want to see that one.
Somebody
wants to see it again. I just saw it for 5 minutes, and it was just the most bizarre fever
Somebody
dream.
has that recorded. I think I Googled it. I haven't found it. Gotta find it.
Speaking of B movies and other nonsense, you can definitely, if you want an easy laugh, definitely. Speaking of prosecution, we have done some recent Bastard or Not, and that is our game where we decide which canceled celeb is a bastard or not.
Oh,
we also did a Steven Seagal shit talk, so if you definitely want some amusement, that's there.
That's true, but you were hating on critics earlier. It's interesting. Now, we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
Oh, man. Do you want it to, I knew this was coming up. Do you want it to be more recent or just...
Whatever your heart wants. You can recommend your favorite movie. You can recommend a movie tied to
as long as you don't cross the line, scab.
Well, here's a movie Ryan will actually agree is a good spy movie, and that is Enemy of the State. Still holds up. Even if you don't like Will Smith anymore, it still holds up. It's just very intriguing and very ahead of its time and just very philosophical at various intervals. So
I like Will Smith. I just want him to start boxing.
And just watch Michael Mann's Ali.
Get it out of his system. So what is it about it that attracts you? I mean, why is it a great spy movie compared to maybe this?
Well, because it's a semi sequel to The Conversation. It's also very organized with laying out its villains and showing the wrongs of the National Security Agency, and all the characters blend. They feel like actual living fugitives on the run instead of just plot devices portrayed well by a A-list cast. So,
all right, cool. No, I'll definitely check that out. Ryan, you like the conversation? Is this
I love the conversation?
Is this a soft sequel to it?
It is. It is.
Oh,
It's
Gene Hackman's playing
you
the
could
same
definitely infer that Gene Hackman's character is the same guy.
Nifty. That's fun. I like stuff like that. Ryan, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is one I've been recommending to anyone until I'm blue in the face, and that is Lizzie Borden's 1986 film Working Girls, which just so happens to be as old as I am. Or am I as old as Working Girls? Either way, everyone wins.
You're as old as some working girls.
Yes. The film depicts a day in the life of a brothel in Manhattan, populated by diligent sex workers plying their trade, interacting with their clientele, and just existing. This is an early example of a progressive depiction of sex work that it's just work that just so happens to be sexual in nature, and it's frankly mind-boggling that something this non-judgmental was made in the midst of the Reagan administration. It's a cultural time capsule of sorts, one that has aged gracefully in the intervening 37 years, and that grace will continue. In the age of OnlyFans, I can only hope that more people will see this film and engage with it. Working Girls is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel.
Awesome. Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch that one for a while, so thanks for reminding.
There's got to be, sort of a higher budget kind of OnlyFans version they could be doing nowadays. I'm sure there's just documentaries, but I mean, you'd want it to be something that was.
Oh, well, they did one already. It was called Real Sex.
Would you mind if we filmed you for a documentary?
It works more than you'd think, Ben.
Starring Bella Thorne. And no one wants stuff in their movie.
Schlenzo, what is your recommendation?
Well, I've been rewatching some classic Arnie movies, and I think a thorough rewatching of his hits should be done no less than once every 3 years. So in that spirit, I'm recommending one of his comedies, Kindergarten Cop. The premise is so tenuous and weak, Arnie could snap it by raising one muscular eyebrow, but don't worry about that. The real joy of this movie is in seeing Arnie interact with the little tykes and the hijinks that ensue. As I have previously stated, do not sleep on Arnie's comedies. His work with Ivan Reitman in particular is always fun to watch and will have more than a few laughs along the way. Amidst the comedy and chaos of the classroom, Kindergarten Cop offers a genuine sense of nostalgia, hearkening back to a simpler time when humor seemed more innocent and the world appeared a bit less complex. The film's portrayal of the early 90s serves as a time capsule reminding us of the fashion and culture that defined that era. And truly, the best part of it, it is streaming on Tubi. Support your local library.
It's not quite, but I don't know. I assume we can let Tubi slide. They're probably not paying anybody anyway. Big Ben, what have you got?
Tubi's free.
Unlike
no,
Ryan,
but the ad revenue goes.
Look, I can't control what Tubi does. One day I will, but not today.
It's owned by Fox. They're paying people.
Nor can you control what Drew Barrymore does. I'm going to go with another
Stop hating the show, Ben!
Same time. No, it's coming out next week. And also, I had a hard time finding people that like it. But hey, I've recommended 4 of the films from the franchise already, and I may as well finish the set. That's your quote, Maynard. And of course, I'm talking about MI2, or Mission Impossible 2, if you'd rather. Maybe if you had to be there, but I remember being amped up for this film. We had acclaimed Hong Kong director John Woo, fresh off the flawless piece of camp that was Face Off, going all out, unleashed with his signature style in the Mission Impossible universe, with all of its face masks and gunplay. How could it miss? And in my cloistered, secluded young Christian teen lifestyle, the buzz was all about how Wu, who was recently converted to Christianity, was soaking as much Jesus symbolism into this film as he could, with Ethan Hunt rock climbing and spreading his arms out as if he were being crucified, and doves of hope literally flying towards the screen. And in retrospect, yes, I will admit there are a few problems with the film, not the least of which is how it treats the one girl along for the ride, which is Naya. But I stand how fun and nuts and awesome a lot of that action sequence is. Through all of the gunplay, cable scaling, motorcycle chases, and hand-to-hand combat. every one of us should be able to use a little bit more slow motion and explosives in our lives. Bobby Lapierre, you know how to contact us.
That's true.
Much like tonight's movie, it's fun, but there's too many cooks in the kitchen. But it is better than the latest one, which is Rip Trax territory. Oh boy.
No, you didn't like it? Dead Reckoning?
The stunts were fun, but you couldn't take any of it seriously, and it took itself too seriously.
Oh,
it also was a step
Kittredge
down
is
from
awesome.
the last two, which were great Die Hard type actioners.
It was a step down from the last two.
So you're saying Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, better than Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
Well, I'd actually pay to see that in the theater.
So, there you go. Now I'm going to send us on home. My recommendation today would normally have been Payback. Because not only does it have Lucy Liu, it also has Greg Henry. But
And it's awesome.
bastard DJS beat me to it. Then I suppose I would have recommended Charlie's Angels, but that bastard Maynard Bangs beat me to it. So
hate that
now
guy.
I have to go with a third string recommendation, but it's still a doozy. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle from 2003.
All right.
Oh.
Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, and current potential WGA scab, as of this recording, /
Damn it.
otherwise dandy human, Drew Barrymore, collectively known as the Angels, are back to foil. I don't know. It was some kind of crime, I think. Something to do with the Witness Protection Program or something. It doesn't matter. The Angels are back. That's what's important. Now, who isn't? Bill Murray, Tom Green, they're out. Who's in? Bernie Mac, Demi Moore. Good swings for us. Also returning from the previous film is Dylan's latest darling director, Mick G. I personally prefer this sequel to the original because the action is turned way up to 11, comically, nonsensically high. It feels like a harbinger to the Fast and the Furious franchises, complete disregard of physics and or time, but with more dressing up in cute outfits, and I'm here for it. It also includes some really fun references to Cape Fear, namely its score, another recent recommendation, and a totally insane list of cameos. Seriously, I can't even go into the entire list because, all right, I'll just a one name drop, Carrie Fisher. Okay, I'll move on. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle is currently streaming someplace properly, but come on, that DVD's got to be like a buck at your local store. You've seen it sitting on the shelf. Just go buy it. It's a perfect way to begin your recommendations of justice. Physical
It's the
media
one with all their
collection.
hinders on it.
I expected this much inconsistency.
Well, you know, Cam, we wanted to make you feel better. Like, you went on a limb for Ecks versus Sever. We wanted to, like, you know, even up the score with MI2 and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, just so you feel at home with
We
us.
do
An
not.
unwatchable movie of 2003.
First off, nothing with Drew Barrymore is unwatchable, and especially add Demi Moore, and it's definitely not unwatchable. But the point is, we don't recommend good movies. We recommend movies we think people should see. Oh, great loophole. And with
Deep
that,
hurting.
we're all out of show. But we want to thank our guest, Cam Sully, for joining us. Thank you so much, Cam.
Oh my god.
I hope you had
Craziness.
fun. I know.
I
We're going to have you
hope so. I
and
hope
you
I wasn't
have
a
to
sore
take
spot.
down Mission Impossible 2 against Big Ben. Good
Well,
luck, because there is going to be Bible quotes. And we hope everyone will join us again as well as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Nanorobots.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.